Hi everyone, welcome. I'm Melody and we talk a lot about shopping addiction here. I'm going to talk a little about that, but mostly about a concept that I'm kind of wrestling through right now that could be applied to almost anything. So I want to talk about the three-way intersection between grace, accountability, and enablement. It's kind of funny because I had made a little list of the videos I wanted to film today. And as I was thinking through what I wanted to say in these videos, I was thinking about how, like I made a video about failing and how I appreciate grace with that, but that I also need some accountability. And where is the extension of grace? Where does that run out and enablement begins? So these are some of the thoughts I had on it, and this is just kind of a rambly video. It's not like I have some big grand piece of advice or anything like that. I'm just thinking. It's just kind of food for thought. So these are the thoughts that I had. One is, some of it needs to come from inside. So if I am the person who is in need of grace and accountability, that needs to come from inside me. So if I fail someone and I have to go and have that moment of confession, hey, this is what I did. I XYZ. Whether that is even failing myself and I'm looking for some accountability from somebody else, for example, I shopped too much. Okay, so I purchased above and beyond what I needed to purchase. Okay, so if I go and confess that to somebody, I really do appreciate the grace. Like, that's okay. You'll get them next time. Don't be so hard on yourself. I appreciate that. But if that keeps happening over and over again, then it becomes enabling. And a couple things on that. So part of that needs to come from me. I need to not abuse that grace, and I need to make a decision for myself that I'm going to change and do better. And it's also, when you seek accountability, the person that you're seeking accountability from, you're asking them to take on responsibility. So a few thoughts on that. One is, I would say ask permission to go to that person for accountability. Also, that person needs to care about you enough to hurt your feelings, because otherwise they're just going to keep extending grace to you. If we want to call it that. I think at that point it might be beyond that. But they need to care enough about you and your well-being and the goals that you have set that they will hurt your feelings, or they will be firm with you in order to keep you accountable. So finding that person that is willing to do that is key. Sometimes it just kind of happens, in which case then it's kind of like that permission comes from the rhythm that you guys get into. But there are a few things that keep me on track, and one of them is accountability. That's one of the big reasons why I started this channel. And then one of them, which is, I think, a symptom of an addiction, and that is shame. So sometimes shame in itself is enough to get me to stop what it is I'm doing, but sometimes shame just makes me hide what I'm doing. Not really, like, that's not something I'm super guilty of right now, but for example, instead of having packages shipped to where my accountability can see it, I might have packages shipped to a different address or something like that. And that is a problem, right? That is a sign of a big, deep problem. So that's where honesty comes in with yourself, honesty with your accountability person. So some ideas on that are, if you are the accountability partner, friend, whatever, do you have a conversation with the person that you're holding accountable? Like, when do you want me to step in? Or do you yourself decide, when that needs to happen? I think it depends too on what you are holding that person accountable for. If it's something like shopping, where it's like, okay, you didn't make your goal this time, but get back on it. If it's something like, something that could rip their family apart or something illegal or something, then there isn't nearly as much space for grace there. And it's funny because, I started down this road. My thought process is not super sharp lately. I started talking about how it's funny that I wrote down the videos that I wanted to make. Okay, while I was doing that, I was watching Busby Style. That's a channel here on YouTube. Erin does fashion for over 40, and I watch a lot of her videos, and I really appreciate what she says. And she got onto this topic about, she was saying in terms of weight gain. So she was talking about purchasing new clothes, if you've gained weight, and to not be hard on yourself, have grace with yourself and buy those new clothes, because you need to be able to get dressed and not feel depressed and not feel down on yourself. So that was just interesting timing with what I was writing down at the time. I'd written it down, and then it was just a couple minutes later that she was talking about that in her video that I was watching. And she was it was the video about 10 signs you might be in a style rut. And I appreciated what she said, because it really confirmed the thoughts that I was having. And then that was kind of like the beginning of this thought about grace, and then thinking about how I do have a tendency, if I'm not getting the accountability that I need, I will let it go a little bit further than it should. Not always, but sometimes. It's happened. Okay, it's happened. And so that's where my thought process went to, how that needs to come from an internal source. So those are my thoughts. What do you have to say? I'm curious. And do you have somebody who keeps you accountable for things? If so, I would like to know who it is. How does it work out? Are you mutually accountable to each other? Are you, does it ever get dicey between you guys? So at my couple jobs ago, the one that I had for the longest period of time in my life, I had a dear, dear friend, and she acted as my accountability person. And it was great. We had a fantastic relationship. We still do. We just don't talk to each other nearly enough. And we were just able to say what we thought. And it was lovely. And if you don't have somebody like that in your life, I encourage you to find somebody. And depending on how it goes, I do think it's a good idea to have a conversation with that person to talk about, what is this going to look like? But again, sometimes that's not necessary. Sometimes it just kind of happens, and that's great too. But surround yourself with wonderful people that care about you and will keep you accountable. That's what I gotta say. So I would love to know any thoughts that you have on this subject in the comments below. Please subscribe if you haven't, like, all those good things that good YouTube viewers are supposed to do. And I appreciate you. I appreciate the time you spent here and any insight that you could share. So have a fantastic rest of your day.